everyone, and welcome to another Sample Spotlight review. Today we will be looking at the libraries developed by Performance Samples. From now until November 10th, 2019, Performance Samples will be running a pre-Black Friday mega sale on all of their products except the River series. Many of the discounts available are very lucrative, so be sure to check out performancesamples.com for more information. I've broken this video up into two parts, strings and brass. For those that have followed my channel, you may know that I have already reviewed Oceania when it was released back in 2017. All of my opinions on it still stand, so if you're interested in it and you would like to watch my review, you can find the link to it in the description, as well as timestamps for all the libraries I cover in this video. For the past few years, Performance Samples has focused primarily on covering some of the most basic articulations covered by the string section, legatos and shorts. One of the first libraries they released covering the latter was Fluid Shorts, a chamber-sized string section designed to function extremely well when triggering repetitive phrases like chordal rhythms and ostinatos. Fluid Shorts features 8 violins, 6 violas, 4 cellos, and 3 basses. All sections were recorded individually for complete control. There are 3 microphone positions that offer a wide range of sonic capabilities, ranging from a very close and tight sound to a more ambient and wide sound. There are 3 dynamic layers that were recorded for each section except the basses, which only have 2. They range from moderately soft to fortissimo or triple F. All patches have 7 round-robin attack samples. Here is a short piece that demonstrates how Fluid Shorts were designed to be used. I should note that there is no added reverb or effects. This is how Fluid Shorts sounds out of the box. As you can see, the interface of this library utilizes the default GUI that comes stock in Contact. Personally, I respect their creative decisions here, but I also know that they could expand on the design to fit more visually dependent workflows, such as larger knobs and font. This visual aesthetic is cohesive within all of their libraries, so this will be the only time in my video where I will criticize that aspect of the interface design. Fluid Shorts gives you complete control over each microphone position's volume, panning, and output routing. They have also included muting and soloing buttons, as well as a disable button which purges the mic position from memory. No other control is available on the front end, but Performance Samples has not locked their patches, allowing you flexible control in the back end. If you choose to edit those patches in such a way, be responsible and always save a backup. To demonstrate each mic position, I will play a short segment from my demo and go through each position starting with the close mic and ending with the wide. Okay, now I'm going to run through the patches with my preferred mix setup. I've got the Deca set to 0, and I've got the close set roughly around -dB with a hard pan to compensate for the location these instruments are in the scoring stage. Okay, now as you can hear, there's kind of this almost like a blurred transient. It's kind of like a little almost like a grace note sound. Listen to this. Now, these samples were pulled from performances, and so what you were hearing is the tail of the previous short sample that was triggered, or performed, I should say, and we're cutting into that prior to the transient. So what we get is a nice, kind of when it all plays together, a blurred sound, which this is how they're meant to be played. Oops. There we go. All right. So basically, the idea is to kind of give you this repetition, and it's more for ostinatos. So once it gets going, it's good. What I would like to see, and I don't know if this is something that they could implement, is that the first note be kind of a more natural start, and then the rest of the notes that follow in sequence are derived from the performances. That way you can have a nice like balance between the two. Here's the violas. Now, as you can hear, there's artifacts in there, and I really like that. I love when you can get just those little harmonics to cut through, or where a note might have been slightly missed. Because this is all about realism. It's all about capturing real performances, real people. And as awesome as it can be to have a library that is perfectly in tune, that is every note is cut perfectly precise, to the transient and everything, it's like at some point it just sounds sterile and lifeless. There's a lot of life in these samples, and it takes some exploring to find the really good aspects of it to make your compositions come to life more. All right, let's check out the cellos. It's really, for me, it's really difficult to play these normal patches. The ultra tight is where it's at in terms of being able to perform well. All right, let's check out the last one, the basses. Now, these are a bit of a wild card for me. They do sound a little pitchy and very muddy. It would be cooler if the close mic had a bit more definition on them to get the pitch, because once they go into the room, it's just kind of more of a boom than anything, but it's there nevertheless. That pretty much wraps it up for Fluid Shorts patches. Now, my final thoughts here is I like the sound overall. I feel like my love of the close mic is a happy accident. As I said, there's a similarity between the close and the Decca, but the close by far has the nicer sound. Functionality-wise, it does take a lot of getting used to. As I mentioned earlier in my video, Performance Samples develops tools designed to do one thing extremely well, and Fluid Shorts nails it. However, this makes it limited to work well and sound good in specific musical concepts. If you're looking for a versatile spiccato capable of working in all tempos and styles of music, this may not be for you. However, I feel like the product demos on Performance Samples website illustrates the type of context this product should be used in very well. So check it out. Fluid Shorts retails for $79 and is currently on sale for $29 until November 10th, 2019. Building off the original concept behind its predecessor, Fluid Shorts 2 adds a whole new level of features to its design. This library was recorded in the same hall as Fluid Shorts, but with a different orchestra. Between the two string orchestras recorded, the only major difference is that there is now an extra cello and bass added to the size, giving the low strings some added weight to their punch. Fluid Shorts 2 only offers one dynamic layer, which is just labeled loud on their product page. It not only features the same sampling approach of performance source spiccatos, but they have recorded eighth note spiccatos at 4 different speeds: 110, 145, 180, and 215 beats per minute. The type of spiccato that is triggered is based on your playing speed within your performance. There are 3 microphone positions as well as 7 round-robin samples, which is consistent with the first Fluid Shorts. Among the list of added functionality, users now have control over the sample offset as well as a sample stacking option that allows you to stack samples together, creating a larger sound. Finally, Performance Samples has added the new balance feature, which gives the user the ability to compress and expand the dynamic range as well as a compression over the low register of each instrument. Here is a short demo that showcases the sound of Fluid Shorts 2. A lot has changed between the interface of Fluid Shorts 1 and 2. The microphone controls are still the same, but you might have noticed the additional features in the middle of the interface. We have an offset slider which adjusts the sample start position. All of the patches in Fluid Shorts 2 need a negative delay of 140 milliseconds to properly initiate their full attack while staying in time with your sequencer. This causes problems when trying to play their parts in. So, all you need to do is pull that slider back until you get the response you need. Then quantize your parts to the grid, and then be sure to return the slider to 140. Keep in mind you will need to add a negative delay to your track in order to compensate for it. The note interruption control acts as a short envelope on each note, allowing repetitive notes to play more cleanly without overlap. The drop-down menu allows you to choose between 2 playing styles, threshold or stacked. Threshold utilizes the timing script, which will trigger between the different spiccato speeds based on how fast you play. The stack option stacks all 4 playing speeds together to create a layered sound. This is a nice feature if you want to get a larger sounding string section at the cost of having a more versatile sounding spiccato performance. The last feature added in this library is the balance page. If you click on the little B in the lower right corner, the balance page will display. This gives you control over the compression of the dynamic range and register, as well as the ability to expand the dynamic range and register of the instrument. A makeup gain knob is included to help compensate for loss of volume when adjusting these controls. My only gripe with this interface is that the balance page button could be larger and in a more visually accessible area, like a tab at the bottom of the patch or simply a button below the offset display. Also, I would really like if they would include some information on each button and slider so that when we hover over it, it can display in the bottom left of Contact's window. I find that feature very useful in other patches when I'm working on the fly and I forget what something does. There is a dramatic difference between the sound of Fluid Shorts 1 and 2's microphone options. The biggest difference can be heard in the close mics. Here's a quick demonstration of the microphone starting with the close. Okay, now let's take a look at the individual patches. I've loaded all of them up in Contact here in standalone with my preferred mic mix. So now I'm just going to kind of play and show you what the sound is like. Also, I should note that I've pulled the offset down to around 41 milliseconds so that it's a little bit of a tighter response to play this in. Here we go. Okay, that's the violins. As you can hear, nice sound. It responds really well. And also, I should note that the close mic in this one, a lot drier, a lot closer and tight sounding than in the previous library, which I love. So there's a lot of definition in Fluid Shorts 2 compared to its predecessor, and you're going to hear that throughout every patch going forward. Also, these are it. There's no additional patches like tight or ultra tight. It's all right here. Everything you need to do to create those other patches, you can do basically with the offset. All right, let's go ahead and switch to the stacked option. Now what this is going to do is it's going to stack all of the different speeds of samples. So they've recorded all spiccato notes at different tempo, and now they've stacked them together so you get this type of sound. Pretty cool. I really like that option, especially if you wanted to make a thicker sound or if you wanted to mimic a different violin section over or under your regular line of the more chamber sound. Here's violas. Cellos. Pretty cool. I love the sound of these cellos. I really wish that they had recorded multiple dynamics. It would have been a huge library if they'd done that, especially with the different speeds. But you know what? I'm kind of like all in with this approach to spiccatos. So I would hope we see in the future just a like Fluid Shorts 3, the most epic, spiccatos ever, but dynamically correct. Because that would be pretty awesome. And last, we have the basses. Now, because this is a closer sound than the first Fluid Shorts, there is a lot more low-end clarity that we didn't get with the first one. A lot more definition. The muddiness isn't as prominent. It's still there because it's basses, and I understand that that is how basses sound, and especially if you record it in a way where it picks up more of the room and just the body of it, that's going to happen. But with the close mic and how it was recorded in this version of Fluid Shorts, it is much cleaner, more definition, a lot more of just the pitch, which is what I want. So when you layer in those with cello, delicious. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up the patch demos here. My final thoughts on this library are that it is a great addition to Fluid Shorts 1 in that it gives you tons of different speeds in the shorts, so there's a lot more you can do in terms of rhythms. The sound of the performance-sourced samples isn't as prominent in this one as it was in the first one, and that could also be based on how you have the offset slider set. The fact that they included a stacked option, which allows you to thicken the sound up, is great. Also, the no interruption button, this is a nice little trickery that they have going under the hood. I kind of brushed by it real quick in my overview of this library. Basically, what this is doing is it's like an envelope, like an ADSR on the individual samples. And it really only applies when you play them in quick succession, and it basically trims the release so that they don't bleed over into the other notes. So what you're hearing is a little bit more rhythmic cohesion and less of a super blurred sound, which can be muddy, and it can also kind of sound out of sync at sometimes without something like this. So this is wonderful that they included this. The back end, I've not explored it too much, but I really didn't care for the controls in terms of what this is, because this is already lacking in dynamics for me, and the more you mess with this, the less the dynamic range really becomes for me. So I don't really mess with it, but I can see how it might be useful in certain contexts. So that pretty much wraps up my thoughts on Fluid Shorts 2. Check it out. Again, it's still on sale until November 10th. Let's move on to the next one. Strings with motion. That is what the Cone Moto series is all about. Performance Samples has released 2 libraries in their Cone Moto series, Violins B and Cellos. The Cone Moto series was recorded in the same hall as Fluid Shorts, which allows for them to be used in combination more efficiently. This series recorded active bow and expressive legato sustains to give your mock-ups more life and energy. Similar to Oceania and Fluid Shorts, special attention went into sampling responsive attacks and release samples that adapt with your MIDI performances. Like Fluid Shorts, a closed section, decatree, and wide microphone array are available. The Cone Moto series went one step further to include a section leader microphone option for added definition to your mixes. 3 dynamic layers were recorded and allow you to blend between them fluidly via CC1. Keeping it simple with the Cone Moto series, Performance Samples only included microphone controls as well as a legato on and off button so you can play polyphonic lines. The additional features allow you to assign your CCs to dynamics, as well as any unused key as a key switch to toggle the legatos on and off. The Cone Moto series offers control over 4 microphone positions: section leader, section close mics, decatree, and wide microphones. These options give you a lot of room to explore different mixes for different contexts. Here is a demonstration of each microphone position for both the violins and cellos, starting with the section leader mics. Now, as you can hear, what's happening is they have a somewhat of a different attack. You play short. It's kind of a crisper attack. And then if you play hard, it's a little bit of a harder attack than soft. You get a little softer attack on there. And then the releases... you get depend on how long you play for. Let's move on to the cellos. Same kind of setup here with the mics. Here we go. Let's have a listen. You get the idea. Again, the same type of scripting as the violins. So overall, functionality-wise, they're very close. Now, here's one of the tips I could provide in terms of how I use this in my demo at the very beginning. I actually tuned this down an octave to mimic a bass section, and I was actually surprised by the results. So I'll go ahead and take this down here. It has a nice, very slow, warm sound to it that gives this library just a little extra mileage in terms of wanting to have that kind of ability and sound and cohesiveness without them having recorded basses yet. So just a little tip if you need to get that low end. All right, that is Moto cellos and violins. Some of my final thoughts on these. Great sounding patches. There is a lot of energy in them, especially if you write lines that aren't static like the ones I played. Personally, I could have used a little more on the attacks to create more of marcato sounds. You'll see it later in this video when I cover the brass, what we were able to get out of them. I wish they had incorporated similar scripts to this product just to give you more control over the attack and sound there. The Moto series keeps with Performance Sample's tradition of creating very specific tools designed to do one thing extremely well. Keep that in mind if you're deciding to buy these libraries, because versatility wouldn't be the adjective that I'd use here. Instead, I would use specialized. Solo Violin A is the first release in the Soloists of the Sea series. I've spent many hours playing with this library on its own. It certainly has its own character and quirks that take a bit to get used to, but when you figure it out, it's a blast to play. Performance Samples has applied everything they have developed up to this release in a way that feels natural. Yes, this library has a very specific character, and I have to say it really shines when it's in the spotlight. Here's a short improvised solo I did on the fly. I made mistakes, so I had to do some editing later, but here it is with no added reverb or effects, just straight out of the box. There isn't really a need for a user interface other than the toggle legato on and off if you wish to play polyphonic lines like double or triple stops. With that said, it makes this library really easy to learn and use immediately without hassle. How does the saying go, simple is always better? That's the case with Solo Violin A. We have covered all of the string libraries that are available at Performance Samples. If my review of these libraries still don't answer questions, I highly encourage you to check out Performance Samples' website, as they have quite a few free libraries that were developed as the prototypes to their commercial releases. Those freebies do a great job at demonstrating the playability of these libraries, but, like most freeware, they are rough around the edges, and don't always sound as fine-tuned and polished as their more mature siblings. Performance Samples dove headfirst into applying their performance source sampling approach to brass with Caspian, a thematic brass library featuring 3 ensemble patches of 6 horns, 3 trumpets, and 3 bass trombones. Caspian features 3 dynamic layers, with only 2 on the horns, from moderately soft to triple forte. There are both short and fast-tongued release samples that adapt to your note lengths. There are 3 microphone positions, close, decatree, and wide. Caspian was recorded in the same hall as Fluid Shorts. The interface in Caspian is like most of Performance Samples products. The user only has control over the microphone positions, as well as the ability to assign custom control to the dynamics. Here is an example of the microphone positions, starting with the close mics. Here is the 3 trumpets in context of my awful playing. Here we go. Here's some of the lower end of the range of the trumpets. Here is the French horns. There you go. And here is the bass trombones. Like Caspian, Angry Brass Pro offers an all-in-one package designed to write epic, thematic music. The biggest difference between the two is that Angry Brass Pro goes to 11. There really isn't anything more I can add to my opinions of Angry Brass Pro that are different from Caspian. Personally, the playability is the same, the experiences when trying to program with it were the same, the only difference is the sound. Angry Brass Pro is much bigger sounding. It goes to that extra extreme that Caspian just doesn't quite get to. The biggest criticism I have for performance samples is that they always leave me wanting more. Whether it be more dynamic layers or playable articulations, the inclusion of the offset fader is a must for all of their libraries, and I hope they incorporate it in an update for their older libraries missing this feature. These libraries were designed with specific goals in mind, so be sure to read the product pages carefully, as well as check out the tech demos. Those demos really illustrate how the libraries were designed to be used. If you stray from that path, your result might not be what you are wanting. I don't see these libraries as entry-level virtual instruments except for maybe Caspian. They lack a lot of the core articulations needed to write orchestral music. I consider these libraries as professional tools designed specifically to achieve certain types of musical ideas efficiently and effectively. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I hope you made it this far. If you enjoy this new content that I'm putting out, please like and subscribe this channel. There's also a bell. Hit that if you want to be notified anytime I do a live stream or a new video is posted. All the support that you guys give me is amazing, and thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm glad to be back and doing this. Until next time, see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.